everybody, how are y'all doing today? I am Eric Anderson. This is the Grid Gurus channel once again, and guess what we're doing? We are working with the same grid groove, but we're going to add a little something different to this one. If you recall, over the past couple, I showed you like some different ways you can play the same eighth note ostinatos on your hi-hat, and then last week's video it had to do with the same eighth note ostinatos being played on the ride cymbal and then between the ride cymbal and the splash cymbal. So today I'm actually going to do, it's the same bass drum rhythm, but today what I want to do is show you some really cool ways that changing how you play the backbeat or the snare drum will have a monster influence on the band that you're playing with. And you can really change a lot of things up without fundamentally changing, really just changing a small amount in the way that you play. So this is what's going to happen. I'm going to do two different runs through the grid, or two pair of runs through the grid. On each one of them, the first one, I'm going to play the same grid that I did when I started this video. And then right after that, I'm going to shift either to a halftime feel where my snare drum, instead of playing on 2 and 4, is now going to play on 3. And then in the second one, I'm going to run through the grid one time as usual, and then I'm going to put the backbeat on the and of every beat. So instead of being 1, 2, 3, 4, it'll be 1 and, you see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So now it's going to wind up creating that double time kind of feel as far as the tempo is concerned. But really, with the exception of the snare, the bass drum and the hi-hat is not going to change what it's doing. So it's an interesting way that your snare can really affect the way the tempo feels, in that you can either you can make it feel like the tempo slowed down in half, that you cut it in half, or you can make it feel like the tempo has been doubled, even though fundamentally you're not changing anything more than what the snare drum is doing. So here we go. One other thing too, on this one here, one thing that I'm going to do to help you hear where the beginning of each measure is at is I'm going to do my best to open the hi-hat on 1 and then close it on the 8th note right behind it. So you'll hear this 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the ideal is that number one, you'll be able to hear where the beginning of every measure is at, but then that really will start to stick out when we go into the halftime and the double time feel, because how we change the drums, the snare drum. But just that opening hi-hat just on 1 can really change the way that these ideas sound. So here we go. Once again, I got my metronome. My metronome is set at 100 beats a minute. So we're going to get this started. We're going to go from the normal grid to the halftime feel grid, and then we're going to see what happens. So here we go. There it is. So. So there was my attempt at going from a normal time, whatever your tempo is set at, to cut it in half by moving the snare drum from the 2 and the 4 and now playing it on the 3. So now I'm going to run through the grid in the same fashion again. This time, when I go through it the second time, this is where I'm going to put the snare drum on the and of every beat, so that it's going to create a double time tempo. Or you're going to be like, if I'm playing it 100 beats a minute, right? When I shift to that double time kind of feel, it's actually going to feel, and it's going to make everybody feel like we've doubled the tempo to 200 beats a minute, when technically we haven't. All that we've done is just we changed where the backbeat is being played, which just goes to show you how powerful and how influential that snare drum can be. So here we go. The grid and then a double time grid. Let's see what happens here. There it is, right? Let me try it again. 2 and 1. There it is. It always amazes me how that snare drum can be so influential, just depending on where you decide to place your backbeats at. So I'm going to give you one good example where I use both of those, and this has a lot to do with cover band work. Actually, there's two great examples where you can hear this. One of the things that I'll tend to do is that when I'm working with a cover band, and the audience is up and moving, and the lead people, like your guitar players or your keyboard players or whatever, they decide they want to go for another round on their solo, or another phrase or whatever. Sometimes if it feels like it's going to go on for a while because the audience is up and dancing, which is huge, I will shift the tempo from the normal time to either the halftime kind of feel or to the double time kind of feel, so that it just creates this different element. And I can tell you right here and now that when you do that with the drum set, it will definitely have an impact on the way everybody else in the ensemble plays, because it feels different and they're going to adapt to it in some way, shape, or form. A lot of times I've noticed from where I sit that when I do that, I notice that it really pushes the soloist to go in completely different directions they probably wouldn't go, because either with the halftime feel, it creates this illusion of space to play in, and the soloist realizes that they have more space to play in, so they start to play with different ideas. Or you go to the double time feel, and what happens is that it feels more chaotic, more frantic, more borderline out of control, and which gets them to do things differently because it just has this completely different feel. And all that different feel comes from where I play this snare drum. You notice in these exercises, I didn't change the hi-hat, I didn't change the bass drum, I only changed the way that I was playing the snare drum. Another place that you'll see this type of thing, and it's very, very common, is in a song that has a chorus, verses, choruses, and a bridge in particular. You will hear them do that in the bridge because they want to change the way the song feels. So let's say the verse and the chorus, the drums are playing in this normal time feel, whatever the tempo is, and then when they hit the bridge, it's really common to go into this halftime feel. Like a great example is, in the song by Evanescence, Bring Me to Life. If you listen to the verses and the choruses and then you pay really close attention to when they hit the bridge in that song, you will hear that the drums drop from normal time to a halftime kind of feel. And that's what kind of creates that, that's what makes it a bridge. It feels very different than anything else that's been done in the song. And usually when they're on the bridge, they're going to take you back to normally the chorus and then to the end of the song, right? So next week, we're actually going to get into a different grid groove, and I'm probably going to spend time with that one, and I'm going to do the same thing, show you multiple different ways that you can change the way that you play the grid groove without changing what you play, so that you can just really blow up your creativity as much as possible. So that's really it. My goal is to show you, one, how this grid groove system works, but more importantly, how by using this system or whatever system you use, you can start to develop those skills, even just to change the way that you play what you play, even before you start adding more to what you can play. But next week, that's what we're going to get into. So my thing is this: did I hit this goal? Is this grid groove system making sense to you? And are you seeing different ways that you can change what you're playing, change how you're playing, without changing what you're playing? If the answer is yes, that's great. Give me a like, give me a subscribe. Definitely share this with other people. I think that's the one thing I would like more than anything, is share this with others and let them get the benefits from this that you're getting. But if I didn't hit the mark, and I'm cool with that, please leave a comment down below, ask your questions, specifically asking, okay, when you did this, what exactly did you mean? Or whatever it is that you're not fully understanding, please ask the question, and I will work on videos in the future that will more precisely answer the questions that you have. So that, my friends, is my rumor, and I am sticking to it. I am Eric Anderson. This is the Grid Grooves channel, and I'm going to call it quits for a day. All right? Y'all take care. Bye-bye.